IPB University is transforming into an excellent higher education institution in agriculture, marine, and tropical biosciences. We're committed to strengthen the nation's dignity. We continue to move forward and become a leading university in Indonesia. IPB University not only at the national level, we continue to challenge ourselves to be the best at the global level. IPB University currently has 9 faculties, offering 38 undergraduate programs, in addition to a School of Business and a School of Vocational College. To provide quality education and the best learning experience, IPB University pursues to advance both national and international accreditation and certification. Listed as the most prospective contributor of innovation in Indonesia, IPB University has research centers that facilitate research in various fields. By innovating perpetually, we can elaborate a sustainable quality of life. We breed youth entrepreneurs that drive the nation's independence in the future. We are aware of the magnitude of collaboration in fostering innovative mindset to continue growing and developing. IPB University have and will continue to collaborate with diverse partners domestically and globally. IPB University continually contribute at the global level. Immersed in consorts of international research and education development. IPB University is committed to continue to grow, brighten the nation's future through innovation. IPB University, inspiring innovation with integrity.
Indonesia, the biggest archipelagic country on Earth. Made up of thousands of volcanic islands, best known for beaches, volcanoes, Komodo dragons, orangutans sheltering elephants, and tigers. The mega biodiverse country is inhabited by 20,000 different kinds of herbs and plants, also place where you can find more than 10,000 kinds of animals roaming the land. Indonesia is homeland to hundreds of ethnic groups speaking as many as 650 different languages. Differences is our motto, made us strong by one vision of a big country. Formerly part of University of Indonesia, in 1963, IPB University was stood as the first independent campus to focus on agriculture. Located in Bogor, West Java, IPB University brings strong vision as a leading international university focusing on agriculture, marine, and biosciences. There are 11 faculties and schools, comprises 39 undergraduate study programs, 65 master study programs, and 42 doctoral study programs. There are 27 internationally accredited study programs in IPB University as a proof of our commitment as a world-class university. IPB University, through its performance, able to craft achievements and acknowledged as the most innovative state university in Indonesia. In promoting students' quality outside the class, student club and societies are places for students of the same interest and hobbies to meet and share.
Kekayaan alam yang terkandung di dalam bumi pertiwi bukan hanya sebagai simbol keindahan duniawi, namun juga sebagai sebuah potensi. Bersamaan dengan potensi sumber daya alam yang luar biasa, turut timbul beragam permasalahan proses pengelolaannya. Terlebih, industrialisasi dan perkembangan zaman menjadikan persoalan semakin kompleks. Untuk menindaklanjuti hal tersebut, dibutuhkan tindakan nyata yang diantaranya adalah mencetak sumber daya manusia yang handal dengan kualitas intelektual dan mumpuni di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. IPB University mewujudkan aksi nyata melalui hadirnya ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam sebagai salah satu program studi di Sekolah Pascasarjana yang terkemuka di kawasan tropika dan sebagai trendsetter dalam pengembangan program studi lingkungan di Indonesia. PSL-IPB menghadirkan program magister dan doktor yang merupakan wadah untuk mencetak SDM yang mampu mengembangkan ilmu dan teknologi serta seni di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. Ada pula konsentrasi minat studi program magister meliputi diplomasi lingkungan, manajemen dan perubahan lingkungan, pencemaran dan bencana, dan sistem agromaritim berkelanjutan.
Capaian pembelajaran program magister ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan, yaitu mampu mengembangkan ipteks dan praktek profesional melalui riset hingga menghasilkan karya inovatif dan teruji. Mampu mengidentifikasi dan menjelaskan, mensintesis, dan merumuskan konsep ipteks dalam manajemen pembangunan dan permasalahannya, mampu mengaplikasikan serta mencari solusi dengan menggunakan pendekatan sistem secara holistik untuk pembangunan yang berkelanjutan, dan mampu mengelola riset, inovasi, dan pengembangan ipteks pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang teruji dengan pendekatan multi dan atau interdisiplin yang bermanfaat bagi kemaslahatan masyarakat dan keilmuan serta mampu mendapatkan pengakuan nasional, regional, dan atau internasional.
Program studi tingkat doktoral PSL-IPB menyelenggarakan dan menjadi pelopor dalam kegiatan penelitian dasar dan terapan dalam pengembangan ilmu dan teknologi, serta seni yang baru dan original di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang berkelanjutan. Program Dr. PSL-IPB berkonsentrasi kepada minat studi yang diantaranya kebijakan dan sistem manajemen sumber daya alam dan lingkungan, pengelolaan dinamika ekosistem dan jasa lingkungan, dan pengelolaan dan mitigasi kerusakan lingkungan, kebencanaan dan perubahan lingkungan.
Selamat datang di program Doktor Ilmu Pengelolaan Sumber Daya Alam dan Lingkungan IPB University. Program ini berdiri pada tahun 1976 dan merupakan salah satu program doktor tertua di Indonesia dan sampai saat ini telah meluluskan lebih dari 600 doktor. Rata-rata setiap tahun kami menerima antara 20 sampai 30 orang mahasiswa program doktor, terdiri dari program reguler yang perkuliahannya hari Senin sampai Jumat dan program khusus yang perkuliahannya berlangsung Jumat malam dan Sabtu. Sehingga saat ini kami mengelola sekitar 150 mahasiswa aktif program doktor. Program doktor IPB University saat ini terakreditasi A dari Badan Akreditasi Nasional dan sedang dalam proses menuju akreditasi unggul dalam sistem akreditasi yang baru. Program doktor ini sifatnya multidisiplin sehingga dosennya berasal dari berbagai fakultas di IPB. Saat ini program ini diasuh oleh 36 dosen, 26 diantaranya atau 70% adalah guru besar. Program yang kami asuh mencakup program by course dengan mengambil sejumlah SKS mata kuliah yang dilanjutkan dengan penelitian disertasi dan program by research yang lebih menekankan pada penelitian. Kampus kami berada di Baranang Siang, Bogor, dan memanfaatkan resource sharing dengan berbagai laboratorium di IPB di Baranang Siang maupun di Dermaga. Kerjasama pendidikan dan penelitian kami bina, baik dengan berbagai lembaga pemerintahan maupun swasta di dalam negeri, maupun dengan universitas mitra di luar negeri, antara lain dengan Jepang, Australia, Prancis, dan lain-lain. Dengan semua ini, kami berharap dapat menghasilkan doktor ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang handal dan berintegritas.
Proses pembelajaran turut ditunjang dengan berbagai macam fasilitas yang lengkap, seperti ruang perpustakaan, ruang seminar, ruang administrasi, ruang audiovisual, serta koneksi internet yang cepat. PSL-IPB secara aktif terus melebarkan sayap dengan melaksanakan kerjasama internasional pada bidang studi lingkungan bersama universitas-universitas kelas dunia. Keberhasilan pencapaian ini merupakan bentuk peran aktif dari SDM PSL-IPB yang senantiasa terus berkarya, berinovasi, dan berdedikasi. Namun, sejatinya salah satu misinya yaitu mencetak para lulusan PSL-IPB yang mampu mengembangkan pengetahuan iptek di bidang keilmuannya dan melaksanakan praktek profesional melalui riset hingga menghasilkan karya inovatif dan teruji. Bersama PSL-IPB, mari kita wujudkan generasi dengan sumber daya manusia yang berkualitas, mumpuni, berdedikasi, profesional, dan berdaya dalam berkontribusi nyata di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan.
Jadi pada setiap 5 Juni kita tahu memperingati Hari Lingkungan Hidup sedunia ya. Dan PSL ingin berperan di dalam memperingatinya itu dengan aksi-aksi ya. Tadi saya katakan selain menanam pohon, tapi kita selalu ingin bahwa apa yang ada di dalam benak kita, teori-teori yang sudah kita ketahui, praktek-praktek yang sudah diketahui, itu harus dilakukan pada masyarakat luas.
PSL-IPB, Inclusivity, Resiliency, and Sustainability. Program studi PSL merupakan salah satu program studi lingkungan sekolah pascasarjana yang tertua di Indonesia dengan akreditasi A oleh BNPB, serta telah meluluskan 915 orang Magister Sains dan 517 orang doktor sampai dengan tahun 2019. Para lulusan PSL tersebut telah banyak berperan secara profesional di berbagai sektor kehidupan masyarakat, baik sebagai akademisi, birokrat, konsultan, LSM, maupun sektor pemerintahan. Proses perkuliahan PSL baik kelas reguler maupun kelas khusus dilaksanakan di Gedung Sekolah Pascasarjana, Kampus IPB Baranang Siang. Mahasiswa melakukan penelitian hampir di setiap bidang dan berusaha memperluas dan mengembangkan pengetahuan melalui analisis, inovasi, dan wawasan. Peneliti seringkali berkolaborasi dengan kolega di seluruh universitas, lembaga terafiliasi, serta lembaga penelitian lainnya.
Saya melihat perlu ada sebuah peningkatan dari kehadiran para sarjana dan ilmuwan dari IPB untuk mengisi sejumlah ruang-ruang kosong yang ada di banyak daerah, terutama dalam masalah reklamasi. Sehingga pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan kita ke depan itu semakin baik lagi. Perubahan iklim, kerusakan ekosistem, sebagaimana juga yang disampaikan Bapak Presiden, bahwa banjir bandang, tanah longsor diakibatkan karena alih fungsi lahan. Baik itu karena tambang dan juga karena perkebunan. Dan disinilah peran dari IPB yang melahirkan para cendekiawan dan mereka yang pakar di bidang kehutanan serta lingkungan untuk membantu pemerintah, membantu masyarakat di semua daerah agar kerusakan ini bisa dipulihkan kembali.
Saya pertama memilih PSL sebagai program studi yang bagi saya luar biasa, karena PSL ini bicara tentang ilmu yang multidisiplin ya. Ketika kita belajar tentang PSL, kita belajar basically kita belajar tentang tata kelola sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. Jadi isu terhadap perubahan iklim hari ini banyak terjadi karena sebenarnya banyak kondisi di mana pengelolaan lingkungan alam itu belum dikelola secara optimal. Sehingga melalui PSL ini saya belajar bagaimana mengoptimalkan pengelolaan lingkungan yang lebih baik.
Aktivitas PSL didukung oleh sarana dan fasilitas yang mumpuni, seperti ruang kelas yang memiliki digital proyektor dan fasilitas internet. Ruang seminar untuk mendukung kegiatan-kegiatan yang dilaksanakan program studi maupun mahasiswa. Ruang baca memiliki koleksi buku teks penunjang kuliah, jurnal nasional dan internasional. Ruang komputer tempat untuk mengoptimalkan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi pada riset ilmiah dan eksperimen yang dilakukan. Serta pelayanan administrasi yang berfungsi dalam pengarsipan surat menyurat, surat kontrak, dan pelayanan lainnya.
Saya merasa bersyukur dan bangga sebagai alumni PSL-IPB University dengan tambahan bekal yang saya peroleh saat kuliah, khususnya yang terkait kebijakan dan diplomasi lingkungan. Pada saat menjalankan tugas negara sebagai anggota delegasi Indonesia dalam perundingan batas maritim, dibutuhkan data dan informasi potensi sumber daya alam dan lingkungan di kawasan perbatasan yang lengkap dan akurat. Alhamdulillah, setiap berunding kita dapat secara presisi mempertimbangkan potensi sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang ada di kawasan perbatasan, sehingga garis batas yang diperoleh dan disepakati akan menguntungkan posisi tawar Indonesia. Saya berharap agar PSL-IPB University akan terus mengikuti perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi, serta mendorong mahasiswa untuk terus melakukan penelitian pada bidang yang dibutuhkan oleh bangsa dan negara tercinta Indonesia.
Saya memilih sekolah jurusan itu karena menyadari bahwa bumi kita sedang mengalami suatu perubahan yang besar, perubahan iklim, di mana kita manusia perlu melakukan suatu upaya-upaya adaptasi dan mitigasi. Dan di prodi ini saya mendapatkan pelajaran teori, praktek, maupun upaya-upaya dialog di antara mahasiswa maupun pengajar yang sangat harmonis, sangat dinamis, sehingga kami belajar dengan perasaan yang sangat bahagia. Dan ini sejalan juga dengan profesi saya untuk menerapkan keilmuan yang didapat dari program studi ini.
Untuk melebarkan kerjasama pendidikan antara PS-PSL dengan berbagai universitas di luar negeri, pada tahun 2013 PSL telah menandatangani MOA dengan Queensland University untuk pelaksanaan skema joint degree dan double degree. PSL akan terus melebarkan sayap untuk melaksanakan kerjasama dengan penyelenggara akademik di Indonesia. Lulusan PSL mampu mengembangkan pengetahuan, teknologi, dan seni di dalam bidang keilmuannya atau praktek profesionalnya melalui riset, hingga menghasilkan karya inovatif dan teruji. Lulusan PSL juga mampu memecahkan permasalahan sains, teknologi, dan seni di dalam bidang keilmuannya melalui pendekatan inter atau multidisipliner. Serta lulusan PSL mampu mengelola riset dan pengembangan yang bermanfaat bagi masyarakat dan keilmuan, serta mampu mendapat pengakuan nasional maupun internasional.
Saya melihat keilmuan program studi pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan sangat strategis dan penting terkait dengan tata kelola sumber daya alam, penanganan lingkungan, konservasi energi, dan keberlanjutan kehidupan baik secara nasional maupun terkait dengan kesiapan masyarakat dunia dalam menghadapi perubahan iklim. Dan kami berharap program studi pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan IPB University terus mengedepankan pembelajaran, pemahaman terhadap sistem, sustainability, dan problem solving terhadap permasalahan kehidupan yang melibatkan multivariabel, bukan hanya yang sifatnya statis, tapi juga dinamis, berdasarkan perkembangan variabel waktu.
Dalam perkembangan zaman yang serba cepat dengan era digital yang begitu luar biasa, pembangunan ke depan tetap harus mengacu pada keberlanjutan lingkungan. Untuk itu, keberadaan program ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya lingkungan IPB sangat tepat untuk bisa menghadirkan para pengambil kebijakan yang tetap mengacu pada hal tersebut. Untuk itu, pengalaman saya ketika menjadi mahasiswa S3 PSL-IPB sangatlah banyak membantu dari sisi wawasan, termasuk konsep serta teori dan pijakan dasar pengambilan kebijakan ketika saya mengampu amanah sebagai Ketua DPRD Kota Bogor. Untuk itu, saya berharap bahwa PSL-IPB tetap menjadi program interdisiplin ilmu yang bisa mengaitkan semua ilmu yang ada dengan tetap mengacu pada 3 aspek, yaitu ekologi, sosial, dan ekonomi. Dengan demikian, maka akan lahir sebuah kondisi masyarakat yang baik ekonominya, terjaga sosialnya, dan lestari lingkungannya. Hidup PSL-IPB.
PSL-IPB, Inclusivity, Resiliency, and Sustainability.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The opening ceremony of the 2022 University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction, or the UN4DRR International Symposium, is going to start soon. Before we begin this event, please allow me to remind all the participants the rules of conduct during the virtual symposium. 1. Participants are not allowed to share the meeting ID and password of the Zoom meeting that we provide to other parties. 2. Participants are not allowed to enter the meeting room using 2 devices at the same time. 3. Participants registered as presenter or non-presenter must rename their Zoom name to the format as follows: breakout room number _ full name. The number of each breakout room can be seen right before the parallel session starts. 4. Participants must use virtual background which have been given before. There are common virtual backgrounds for plenary session and virtual background for each parallel session according to the theme. 5. Participants must fill in the attendance forms, which the link is on the next slide. 6. Please make sure that your name is entered correctly in the attendance list because it will be used for issuing the e-certificate. 7. The host will turn off the participant share screen function and will mute the participant's microphone until the moderator or MC gives a chance to speak. 8. Participants must turn on the camera during the symposium. 9. Participants must ensure that internet connection, visual and audio connections are stable. And last, participants who fill in the attendance form and take part in this activity until the end are entitled to receive e-certificate through the registered email within 7 days after the symposium. Here is the link for the attendance form that I've been mentioned before. Now, please allow me to show today's agenda. In general, we will have 2 parallel sessions, 1 keynote speaker session, and 1 invited speaker session. Right now, I will open this symposium. Good morning from Bogor, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, also all distinguished participants, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are delighted to welcome you to IPB University in collaboration with University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction, UN4DRR, in the 2022 UN4DRR International Symposium. This symposium will be done with the theme Disaster Risk Reduction, Mitigation, and Environmental Sciences Towards New Era. This event is organized by the study program of Natural Resources and Environmental Management IPB University, together with Environmental Research Center IPB University, and supported by Graduate School of IPB University and International Collaboration Office IPB University Indonesia. The UN4DRR activity is funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. My name is Nurul Iswari, and I will be today's Master of Ceremony. First of all, on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to extend a warm welcome to the distinguished Rector of IPB University, Professor Aris Satria, Rector of Syiah Kuala University, Professor Marwan, Head of Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management, Letjen TNI Suharyanto, or in this moment, will be represented by Dr. Raditya Jati, Head of Geospatial Information Agency, Professor Aris Marfai, Dean of Graduate School IPB University, Professor Anas Miftah Fauzi, Head of Doctoral Program of Natural Resources and Environmental Management Study Program, IPB University, as well as a leader of UN4DRR IPB University, Professor Widiat Makah, Head of Master Program of Natural Resources and Environmental Management, IPB University, Professor Haji Susilo Arifin, Lead Partner of UN4DRR, Professor Jonathan Cheung-Wai Chan, Project Coordinator of UN4DRR Syiah Kuala University Indonesia, Dr. Nizamuddin, Director of International Program IPB University, Professor Iskandar Zulkarnain Siregar. The invited speakers, Professor Željko Bačić from University of Zagreb, Croatia, Professor Luis Angel Ruiz from Polytechnic University of Valencia, Professor Lailan Syaufina, and Professor Lina Farlina Sari from IPB University Indonesia. Also, all the participants and audiences, welcome to the 2022 UN4DRR International Symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, for a brief moment, we would like to invite you to sing and listen to Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya. To all participants here are welcome to take a standing stance. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially start our event this morning, we are pleased to invite the chairman of the organizing committee, also the IPB University coordinator of UN4DRR, to deliver a brief report. To Professor Widiatmaka, the screen is yours.
Thank you, MC Mbak Nurul. The Honorable Rector of IPB University, Professor Aris Satria, Dean of Graduate School of IPB University, Professor Anas Miftah Fauzi, what I respect the keynote speaker, Head of National Disaster Management Agency, BNPB, Lieutenant Jenderal Suharyanto, who today was represented by Dr. Raditya Jati, Deputy of System and Strategy, BNPB, Honorable Head of Geospatial Information Agency, PIG, Professor Aris Marfai, Rector of Syiah Kuala University, Professor Marwan, and Lead of UN4DRR Consortium, Professor Jonathan Cheung-Wai. Also, what I respect, invited speaker, Professor Željko Bačić from University of Zagreb, Croatia, Professor Luis Fernandez from Universidad Politécnica de Valencia, Spain, as well as Professor Lina Karlinasari and Professor Lailan Saufana of IPB University. Lecturer and student, Graduate School of IPB University, ladies and gentlemen, and all participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Let's thank to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing that we can gather here in this good occasion. Let's also praise and send greeting to our illuminator, great Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The 2022 UN4DRR International Symposium is held as part of a series of activities from the University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction, UN4DRR, a project elaborated by Erasmus Plus and financed by European Union. The UN4DRR itself is a consortium consisting of 9 universities from 7 countries, which are Vrije Universiteit Brussels, Belgium, Universidad Politécnica de Valencia, Spain, University of Nicosia, Cyprus, University of Zagreb, Croatia, Maldives National University, Maldives, University of Paradenia, Sri Lanka, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, IPB University Indonesia, and Syiah Kuala University Indonesia. It can be informed that the UN4DRR activities aim to first update teaching material related to disaster risk reduction and management that are integrated using geographic information system and remote sensing. Secondly, to educate students so that later they can become expert in natural disaster management. To provide certificate for course in application of remote sensing and system information geographic in disaster risk analysis. Cooperation with various stakeholders through disaster risk reduction management training offers. All activities have been done since 2020 and will end in the next 2023. The several components of activity groups include curriculum improvement, capacity building, laboratory and equipment development, and dissemination among national and international stakeholders. It is in the context of international dissemination that this 2022 UN4DRR International Symposium was held. For Indonesia, the subject of disaster risk reduction is very important and relevant given the high potential for disaster in Indonesia. The location of Indonesia, which is in the meeting place of 3 geological tectonic plates, cause it geographically. Indonesia is an area with high disaster prone. In Indonesia, the frequency of earthquake is very high due to tectonic and volcanic activity. In addition, with a wet tropical climate, Indonesia has a very high vulnerability to floods, landslide, and deforestation. Don't forget also the forest and land fires that occur many, especially on peatland. Thus, The development of spatial-based tools for disaster management is a necessity in a country with a very wide geographical range. As part of rapid response action, Indonesia needs disaster mapping. Teaching and training on disaster risk reduction and management need to be given to all groups, including wide public community, association, student, worker, and others. Interest in more detail can be seen at the level of education at the university. By participating in the Erasmus plus UN4DRR project, IPB University is expected to be able to participate in developing human resource. IPB graduates who have been equipped with disaster risk reduction management competency using remote sensing and geographic information system are directed to help in risk reduction management. In the context as described above in this international symposium, I am pleased to announce that we have some crucial figures in disaster management as well as spatial planning as our keynote speaker during this UN4DRR International Symposium. We have invited and will speak at the symposium, including the head of National Disaster Management Agency, BNPB, and the head of Geospatial Information Agency, BIG. We invited also the rector of Syiah Kuala University in the capacity as an Indonesian partner at UN4DRR, just like IPB University. In addition, we also invited Professor Jonathan Chan as lead partner of UN4DRR, who will be able to explain the importance of UN4DRR for the development of disaster risk management in the Indian Ocean Rim. In addition, there were Professor Luis Angel Ruiz Fernandez from Spain, Professor Željko Bačić from Croatia, as well as Professor Laulan Chauvina and Professor Lina Kalinasari, both professors of IPB as invited speakers. I am also impressed with the enthusiasm of 108 contributing participants. There will be 100 oral presentations coming from both Indonesia and overseas. These papers were selected from 148 papers submitted to the committee. This international symposium will then also be followed by technical training, which will take place from July 25 and to July 27 at IPB University, and then July 28 to 30 at Syiah Kuala University. Currently, 29 participants from 7 UN4DRR consortium countries have registered to attend the technical training. I want to express my appreciation to Graduate School, IPB University, IPB University Environmental Research Center, and Directorate of International Program of IPB University, as well as Directorate of Information System and Digital Transformation of IPB University to support this event. To all committee of the UN4DRR International Symposium, as well as the UN4DRR Technical Training, I express a high appreciation to you all who have organized this event well. Finally, I would like to wish you all a fruitful symposium and please enjoy the meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Widyatmaka. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the welcome remarks. The welcome remarks will be delivered by the Rector of IPB University, Professor Dr. Aris Satria. To Professor Dr. Aris Satria, the screen is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like, on behalf of IPB University, I would like to extend a great appreciation and warm greeting to the esteemed Rector of University of Syiah Kuala, Chairman of Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management, Chairman of Geospatial Information Agency, Dean Graduate School of IPB University, and Head Study Program on Natural Resource and Environmental Management, IPB, distinguished keynote speaker and invited speaker, Prof. Jonathan Chan from Brussels, from Željko from Croatia, Prof. Luis Angel from Spain, and Prof. Laila from IBB, and Prof. Lina from IBB University. All participants, scientists, practitioners, students, committee members of the symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, IBB University, through National Resource and Environmental Management Science, has successfully organized a biannually series on international seminars on the International Seminar Natural Resource Environmental Management in Bogor. Here this morning, we are witnessing the continuation of the international symposium event as part of the activities of international collaboration in the University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction in Indian Ocean Rim. We have learned that coronavirus 19 disease since 2020 has changed the world, including our daily life, which is known as a new normal. However, as scientists, researchers, students, practitioners, policymakers, and business persons, we somehow have managed to adapt to this new normal to continue our programs and activities. We have to maintain the contacts with our fellows and make the new that nowadays could be done through different means, among other, like today's virtual event. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the symposium is disaster risk reduction, mitigation, and environmental science towards new era. The symposium is an excellent forum for those who are involved in scientific multidisciplinary disciplines on emerging issues and trends in disaster management and environmental science through fruitful discussion about disaster risk mitigation and adaptation, geospatial technology, environmental management and policy, and sustainable natural resources. The pool of knowledge on disaster risk reduction and environmental management in the long term should be utilized for educating people, especially for future experts for management in natural and human-induced disaster. For the reason, I am convinced that the symposium will become an important forum to share new perspective on disaster risk reduction, as well as environmental management issues, and effective knowledge exchange within the framework of recent development of local, regional, and global scale. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, I appreciate study program on natural resource and environmental management science, Business School IBB University, and the symposium consortium for organizing this international symposium. Hopefully, this event will generate new perspective for strengthening the sustainable development agenda relating to environment and sustainability, as clearly stated in the 17 SDGs. Finally, I wish you all having a productive discussion in the symposium. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Aris Satria, for your welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to the keynote speakers, we will have a group photo session. To all participants, please kindly turn your video camera on, and to the committee, please help me to take photos on my cue. Right now, we have 7 slides. I will start the countdown for slide 1. 3, 2, 1. Slide 2. 3, 2, 1. Slide 3. 3, 2, 1. Slide 4. 3, 2, 1. Slide 5. 3, 2, 1. Slide 6. 3, 2, 1. And the last slide. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, Professor Aris Satria and Professor Widiatmaka, for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, following up to the next agenda is the plenary session. Now we would like to invite the keynote speakers. We will have 4 keynote speakers that will give their speech. The first speaker is Dr. Raditya Jati, on behalf of Letjen TNI Suharyanto, a head of Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management. But before that, allow me to read his short CV. Dr. Raditya Jati is a Deputy of Systems and Strategy of Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management. He obtained his bachelor degree in Regional Development Planning in Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. His master and doctoral degree was in Environmental Sciences in Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia. To Dr. Aditya Jati, we welcome you to deliver your speech. Please note that you only have 30 minutes to speak. To Dr. Aditya Jati, are you already in this Zoom meeting? Hello, Dr. Aditya Jati. Can you please mute my microphone? All right, because Dr. Aditya Jati is still have another meeting, we will now move to the keynote speech 2, who is already available in this Zoom meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, following up to the next agenda is our keynote speaker, is a head of the Geospatial Information Agency, Professor Aris Marfai. Similar to before, I would like to read the short CV of Professor Marfai. Professor Marfai completed his bachelor degree in the Department of Physical Geography, Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia. Also Master of Science at ITC Netherlands and doctor degree at Justus Liebig University, Germany. To Professor Marfai, we welcome you to deliver your speech, and you only have 30 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much, MC. Is that my voice and my video is clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Allow me to share the PowerPoint for our presentation. So very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Professor Aris Satria as the Rector of the ITP University, and also the Honorable keynote speaker in these occasions, as well as ladies and gentlemen, all participants today. As by the committee, they invite us to give a speak on the geospatial information for disaster and natural resource management. Me, myself, my name is Aris Marfai. Currently, I'm the head of the Geospatial Information Agency of Indonesia. I will start with a presentation of the introduction of geospatial information a bit, and then following by the information for disaster and natural resource management with some examples. Then the latest, I would like also to briefly talking about the geospatial information technology, especially in the innovation for disaster as well as the natural resources management, and how we're facing with this in the future. For those who maybe do not know yet about the Geospatial or the Geospatial Information Agency of Indonesia, actually Geospatial is the science of whether we are on a measurement, visualization or mapping, whether we do the analysis or modeling, as well as the planning, and etc. and so on. So those are related to the science of where. Now we put it as geospatial information. According to our rules, which is Undang-Undang Nomor 4/2011, geospatial information is all types of informations that have an element of location. So as far as we have the element of location in terms of coordinate, so it is also already called as geospatial information, meaning that we have the coordinate X, Y, and also the coordinate of Z, which is the vertical. It can be on the format of point, line, or area, or its polygon. So this is the regulation of geospatial information in Indonesia, starting from the law number 4, Undang-Undang nomor 4, 2011 about the geospatial information, and then following by the government regulation number 45 as part of the derivation from the UUCK, and then also the presidential regulation 39 concerning when data policy, and also following by PP number 23 about the acceleration of one map policy, as well as other regulation. So based on our law number 4, 2011, geospatial can be divided into two major elements, which is the first is basic geospatial information. In this basic information, geospatial information, including the base map, which is familiar with us as a topographic map atau peta RPI, which is actually in this topographic map should be content of the hydrographic, geographic name, administrative boundary, coastline, transportation, utilization, building and social facility, as well as land cover. Those are the information should appear in the base map. And then later on, the second function is thematic geospatial information, which is including the thematic map in sectoral, the kementerian, lembaga, or the local government. This is the one data and one map policy in Indonesia that we should follow, actually, how we integrate the data about the statistic data, geospatial data, as well as the data related to the monetary. And then we have what we call one map policy, which is all the map that we develop in Indonesia should following one reference, one data standard, and also one basic data, as well as we can sharing for interoperability in one geoportal. So this according to our rule. Nowadays, we are continuing to do the one map policy according to the presidential regulation number 23, 2021, which is doing the compilation, integration, synchronization, as well as the data sharing. Now included already 158 thematic map, including the natural disaster map, disaster risk reduction management, spatial planning, etc., and so all, including already 24 ministries and agencies in 34 provinces in a scale of 150,000. So those are related to the information of geospatial, introduction of the geospatial information in Indonesia. And now, what is the rule actually? Geospatial information for disaster and natural resource management. In which extent actually geospatial information can be used for disaster risk reduction, and how they use the geospatial information in terms of risk reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, this screen show us the important potential disaster that happen in Indonesia. This is a natural disaster as a latent, how you call it, hazard in Indonesia, and therefore this mitigation adaptation must be handled properly by a sustainable disaster risk reduction management, for example. This is the city location in entire Indonesia, and many people, more than 40% Indonesia, reside in the area that are vulnerable to natural disaster. It can be flooding, it can be slide, it can be volcanic, tsunami, forest fire, etc., and so on. So, what do we agree on? Flashback on Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, for example, adopted by third UN World Conference in Sendai, it was in 2015, that we should avoid and reduce the risk is also decreasing the exposure, as well as in the same time we should increasing the resilience. So by these three goals, there is also important for us to know the information related to the area, the information related to the spatial constellation. So therefore, the geospatial information would be very important in that issue. The geospatial information in this cycle, for example, will have the important rule for several activities for the GRM priorities. For example, we have in our geospatial information, as I mentioned previously, we have basic geospatial information. In this basic geospatial information, including the geodetic reference frame, the continuous operating reference station or course, tide gauge or station tide, geodetic network, as well as GIS. And then including also in the geospatial information is basic map, including bathymetry, LiDAR, etc. and so on. I will show you how important actually this, or how the role of the data and information, geospatial information from geodetic reference frames. In our office in PIG, we do GPS and leveling network in all the continuously operating reference station or course station, and also the tide gauge. We have these course and tide gauge actually to support our mapping system, to have the good reference in mapping system, but in the same time, we can use this GPS and course as well as the tide to help the monitoring of the disaster. So the data and information from the geodetic reference frame are mainly important for the risk assessment, including the early warning, rehabilitation, as well as the reconstruction. How we do this one, I will explain after this. This is our tide gauge station, for example, around the Indonesia. The main purpose of this tide gauge station for us in PIG is actually to help us, to support us in doing the mapping, or in doing the basic map of Indonesia, in doing the peta RPI of Indonesia. But in the same time, since this tide gauge also containing the information related to the wave and also related to the tides, so therefore the other agencies, for example, BMKG, in cooperation with us in PIG, use this data to monitor and also to have to do the modeling of the tsunami, because this the data is also record the sea level as record the tide in a very precision. So we have this station in entire Indonesia, around 200 stations, and this year we will add 40 station more in 2020, though already at 40 station in last year. And we send this data to the center every 5 minutes, but actually this station record every second. So therefore we can use this for modeling. If there is something, the anomaly happen on the ocean or on the height of the sea level, so we can record from this station and we can do the modeling. This is, for example, the global sea level rise trend adjusted from tide gauge data. So meaning that our tide gauge data in combined with the satellite radar altimetry can be used for monitoring the sea level rise as well in the future. So this is the sea level rise, for example, in Indonesian region in general during the period from the certain period from 61 up to 2015. So we combining this from the satellite altimetry as well as for our tide station. So the second function of the tide gauge actually also to do the monitoring of the coastal subsidence, flooding, as well as the Indonesian impact. This is the time series showing the phenomena of the coastal subsidence, flooding, and inundation in some area of Bali, also in other area of Blanakan, in Pondok Bali, Blanakan, Indramayu, West Java. This for sure we can see the infrastructure damage, the environmental degradation, the surface water degradation, as well as the deterioration in livelihood quality. So we can generate this model based on our tide gauge station. So also using this tide gauge, actually we can monitor the tidal flooding and inundation in some part of Indonesia, for example, along the coastal area of Java, in Cirebon, Brebes, Tegal, Pemalang, etc., and so on. So we combining using our GPS survey, also using this continuously operating reference station or course station leveling, as well as the tide gauge data. So this is the framework of our station. So based on the tide gauge station on the coastal area, the streaming, we send the data every 5 seconds. by streaming. We send the data to VPN server, and then from there to the web real-time data server, and then monitoring by our experts. And then also we send it to the website as well as to other agencies, for example, to BNPB. Also, in the same time, not only streaming 5 seconds, but also every 5 minutes, we put this in our FTP server in order to do the for us to do the what you call early warning system. So this is the example of our station in the field. We have this 200 station. This is one of the example, tight kit station in Pantoloan. During the earthquake in September 2018, for example, our data showing this tsunami high, but unfortunately the data communication stopped functioning after the earthquake. It can be happen due to the relay station may be broken, or might be also our station broken during the earthquake. But at least this shows us how tsunami high tide appears on our station during that time. So we can do this for monitoring of the tsunami, as well as to help us to do the disaster risk reduction program in the future. This is also another example how we do the assessment of the tsunami in Palu Donggala using our tight kit station in combination with our bathymetry station. Therefore, we can find some of the simulation on this course. Another example of our functioning of the basic map, which is what we call INA continuing operating reference system network. This is what we have up to 2021. We have more than 350 stations. Again, mainly actually in this course network are used for reference system in our mapping, because in the basic map, you need the station to tight your map according to this location, and therefore we have the good precision on the map. So that was actually our objective, to have this in a course network. But in the same time, we can use this data also to monitor the shifting of the plate tectonic. Also, we can use this of the dynamic of the location, for example, sliding or monitoring of the land subsidence, etc., and so on. Because basically these stations are based on the location or based on the GPS. So once we have the different coordinate, meaning that the station are shifting. So by this simple knowledge, then we can develop our monitoring system. So meaning that in the real time, the course can be used also for early warning system for various natural hazards in Indonesia. For example, as I mentioned, the land subsidence or the landslide. Yeah. Also, in the post-processing, we do this coordinate reference frame for various positioning, surveying, and mapping application in Indonesia. This is actually our task, our goal, to have this station. The secondly, this network of this real-time station system for surveying and mapping application, but in the same time also we can use for monitoring or studying natural hazard phenomenon in Indonesia. So also this reference station actually to support our navigation for transportation application, for the GPS, for land, marine, air, etc., and so on. But in the same time, we can use also to monitor network for geodynamic tectonic studies in Indonesian region as well. So there is the some of the important of our data to support the natural disaster. Actually, this is one example based on our GPS core and episodic data that we have. We know the shifting of the what you call it, lempeng tectonic on the platform of the tectonic in Indonesia. Again, we have also the to do the correlation, for example, the land subsidence and the flood area using this geospatial data. And if you're asking whether we can have the data, yes, this data can be accessing freely in real-time GNSS Indonesia, and this is one of our website. We provide with all the GNSS station. You can use the data for analyzing the subsidence in Indonesia. The second of the geospatial information, still in the basic geospatial information, is the data bathymetric national or seamless bathymetric data created from the invasion of the gravity anomaly data resulting from altimetric data processing, also by adding sounding data conducted. For example, this is some agencies using or conducting these bathymetrics, including the BIG, BRIN, it was LAPAN and BPPT as well, and other institutions with single and multi-beam surveys. The spatial resolution of this bathymetric national data is around 6 arc-second using the MSL datum. So we can access also freely this data in Tanah Air Indonesia Go ID. Again, actually, this data are used for our basic mapping, but this data can be used for analyzing related to the disaster studies. For example, the disaster in Palu. So we can see how the bathymetric are changed, were changed, and then the slide below the water happened, and then the bathymetric unchanged. So this kind of analysis can be used by this geospatial information data. This is the bathymetric coverage data in Indonesia in different scale. We are not finished yet with entire Indonesia, but the various scale we already cover almost entire Indonesia. This is the behind the scene how we do the data acquisition to have this bathymetric data, for example. So, and then from that, how we develop the data, how we do this, for example, for various activity, including the rehabilitation and reconstruction program, for example, the new spatial planning, housing, etc., and so on, based on our map, based on our bathymetric data, based on our basic information on our RPI or Rupa Bumi Indonesia. This map based on the digital photogrammetry and LiDAR is conducted by BIG, for example, just start and need to be completed by the end of the already completed by us 2 years ago. This is just one example how we use this basic information, geospatial information. The second thing is the role of the thematic map. Thematic map will play important role for all stage of disaster risk reduction. Thematic map meaning that the map born by the sectoral, the map of the forestry, map of the marine resources, map of the disaster management, map of the monetary statistical map, etc., and so on. Mentioning, you can name it, many of the thematic maps. So the thematic map is actually the responsibility of the sectoral, in a ministerial, or in another agencies. But we in BIG should also help them, support them to develop the geospatial informatics in terms of the thematic map in every KL and Pemda, in every kementerian, lembaga, atau Pemda. This is an example thematic map, what we call hazard map, disaster affected map, vulnerability map, etc., and so on, that can be used to support the several state of disaster risk reduction. So, meaning that actually the thematic map can be used on the prevention and mitigation stage, also can be used on the preparedness stage, as well as can be used on the emergency response, also, or in the rehabilitation and in reconstruction phase. This is just to give us the example, the multi-map hazard produced by the cooperation of the several relevant agencies, earthquake, tsunami, volcanic, flood, landslide, and drought. So using the analytical hierarchy process, for example, this is another map conducted by the Kementerian Kehutanan dan Lingkungan Hidup and Forestry and Environmental Minister, and in the support of the BIG, for example, land and forest fire hazard map in southern Sumatra, and this map useful to help us on the monitoring on the potential fire in the forest fire. This is the contingency map produced to minimize impact of the disaster risk. For example, in the Bantul Regency, it was also under support of BIG. This is another example of the landslide map. This is post-event rapid assessment mapping based on our topographic map, national digital elevation model, satellite image, and the ground survey. This is another also liquefaction area, etc., and so on. So that was actually some of the example how the thematic map produced in some of the agencies and minister in support on the support of BIG to have the disaster risk reduction program. So the last information is also related to the how we do the geospatial information for development on the natural resources. This is just to give you briefly example how we also do mapping on a mangrove, or we do mapping on a one more policy in the that was launched on October 2021, covering area 3.31 million hectare, and we have the KLHK in the mapping of this area mangrove by using the same standard, same quality data, etc., and so on. This is another example, the coral reef and seagrass, and also the geospatial information for natural management actually. So that was some example of how we do the mapping. In the same time, our mapping can be used to support the disaster risk reduction in Indonesia. The last thing, this is the geospatial data related disaster and natural resources in our website, which is the INA Geoportal www.tanahairindonesia.go.id, and can be freely downloaded by the public. There are some of the information already there, including the basic map in various scale as well as the thematic map in a various scale. Also, if we need the, for example, the Indonesian Geospatial Reference System, as I mentioned before, we use this system to doing the mapping, but also can be used for monitoring the disaster, for example. This is freely also in srgi big.go.id, or also in the sea level monitoring big.go.id. That was that I can share with you all. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give back to MC.
Thank you, Professor Marfai, for your keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are moving to the second keynote speaker. On behalf of Legend TNI Suharyanto, Dr. Aditya Jati will deliver a keynote speech. To Dr. Aditya Jati, are you already in the Zoom meeting? Because I will read your short CV. Dr. Aditya Jati is a Deputy of Systems and Strategy of Indonesian National Board for Disaster Management. He obtained his bachelor degree in Regional Development Planning, Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. His master and doctoral degree was in Environmental Sciences in Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. To Dr. Aditya Jati, we welcome you to deliver your speech, and you only have 30 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. Can you hear my voice now? Honorable guests, Rector of IPB, Dean of Graduate School, IPB University, and Head of the Geospatial Information, my friend, Prof. Aris Marfai, and also the Rector of Syiah Kuala, Prof. Marwan, later partner UN4DRR for Professor Jonathan Cheung-Wai, UN4DRR Coordinator IPB, and also speakers, and also distinguished participants, also ladies and gentlemen. So if I may, I can also share the slide with you all on behalf of BNPB. I would like to apologize that Lieutenant General Suharyanto cannot join us all because he's now in the meeting in NTB for a special case for animal pandemic. So if I may also share the Sustainable Disaster Management in Indonesia, You can see the background of Indonesia and its archipelagic state. We are the 35th most disaster-prone countries, and you can see the geographical and also the geological condition of Indonesia and variation of hazard related to volcanic eruption, flood, flash flood, landslide, tsunami. Anything else that we can mention it is a natural hazard, which means also impacted by the anthropogenic induced, including non-natural hazard, including pandemic, technological failure, and also social conflict. We are now, you can say, how many risks of people exposure in the countries related on the earthquake and floods and also landslide, tsunami, volcanic eruption. You can see that the country as now, you can see that disaster is repetitive, but memory cannot fail and recorded will remain. I think this is one of the things that we have to see, that Indonesia is located in the most prone countries, that most of the islands are at high risk, increasing trend of disaster risk. In the past 5 years, we have more than 17,000 frequency of disaster, and also 6,000 people are impacted, and also 30 million people are impacted. Sorry, so 6 million are also as a victim, casualties. So overpopulation, I think, is one of the issues as a prime mover, and also lack of disaster risk data information provision. I think is our challenge now, how to put all the data into one, and also law of societal awareness, disaster management governance, and also incentive of disaster risk, including land use, infrastructure, and also environment issues. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the future challenge is how to put the DRR to understand how can we really put the law of 2007 as a comprehensive management and development and investment. And the area of Indonesia is very wide, and it's a unique case of a challenging archipelagic state. Disaster disrupt of economic growth targets, reduce welfare, and also the climate change. Urbanization is in demand. I think this is one of the challenges we are facing now, including the spatial policies, the change of land use, and also infrastructure that cannot be created as a gesture of resilience infrastructure, and risk planning, and also implementation of disaster management. So what is the key to success of disaster management is the political commitment, building disaster management, and implementative of effective disaster risk itself. You can see the implementation of disaster now is also challenging, since we are now a decentralized government related on the local government and the commitment and political will. So from the global agenda, we have SFDRR, SDGs, COP21. We have a new urban agenda. We have Addis Ababa Agreement on financial for development. How can we put this into national and provincial, and also in district level, and how to localize the resiliency itself? We can see that the commitment of the head of the state, the president decree, and also we have a mid-term national development plan. We have also disaster management plan. We have also disaster national management plan. We also have what we call the disaster plan that 25 years. I think this is the first time in Indonesia, and also maybe in other countries, according to the President Decree number 87, 2020. You can see that the target of this implementation is not only the responsibility of the government itself, but also related to other land ministry and multi-stakeholders, including the plan, national plan, how to monitor and coordinate the plan itself, and how to evaluate itself. The formulation and implementation. Formulation has already been done, involves any other stakeholders, including line ministries, and also consists of 5 stages of 5-year stages up to 25 years. The target 2045 Indonesia as a national resilience. BNPB seeks to carry out the disaster management plan during the disaster itself, including how to prevent and mitigate the mangrove planting, community-based disaster risk reduction, also based on the ecosystem, river, mountain, coastal area, cleaning, and also our environment issues, consolidation on industrial plantation forests. And you might see that last May, we have a very important platform discussed in Bali and consists of 185 countries. More than 7,000 persons was also there, and 75% are in Bali. So I think this is the most important thing, how to put responsibility to put our self-resilience as part of the turning point from Indonesia. And also we would like to share what have the President of Indonesia addressed and asked the concept for sustainable resilience based on our experience from the disasters that have been done or have been happening in the countries. The first is how to strengthening the anticipatory, responsive, adaptive disaster preparedness culture and institution dealing with disaster. Second is about every country should invest in science, technology, and innovation, including ensuring access to finance and technology transfer. And the third is building disaster resilient and climate change resilience infrastructure, and to share commitment to implement global agreement at the national level to local level. What is the output of the Bali GPDRR's Bali Agenda for Resilience, what we call the BAR, from the Global Assessment Report to the BAR, and what is the final consideration, including the BAR for the 7 final consideration? To achieve the 2030 agenda, disaster risk reduction must be integrated with the core of development, finance, and policy legislation plan. Second is only the true systemic changes. Can we account for the real cost of disaster as well as the cost of inaction of the wave of the against the investment in disaster risk reduction, and the global platform called the upon the government to honor the commitments made to Glasgow to drastically enhance financing for the support to adaptation and resilience. Final consideration number 4 is called the participatory of human rights, and approach that included under a principle of nothing about us without us in the disaster risk reduction planning implementation, along with investment in youth and young professionals. And the fifth is about early warning system must be multi-hazard, should be inclusive, and communities most at risk adequate to institutional, financial, and human capacity to act on early warning. And the sixth is there to encourage the adaptive responsive disaster risk management system with multi-stakeholders collaboration accompanied by empathy, solidarity, cooperation, and spirit of voluntarism, in particular to address inequity. And the seventh is about comprehensive and systemic reporting, including robust review of progress made against all Sunday framework targets by countries will have the clear recommendation midterm review of the Sunday framework. So what is the way forward? Member state are encouraged to leverage the midterm review of the Sunday framework itself for coming intergovernment process, and the innovation shared the commitment made by the global platform provide valuable inputs for the implementation of UN Secretary General vision for our common agenda, and other global agendas will ensure risk reduction is embedded across key intergovernmental agreement that focus on most global countries. What is the next meeting? So has been done also the high-level political forum in New York last beginning of July, and also in Brisbane will be upcoming in September. So from Bali to Brisbane and back to Bali as a G20, and also there will be BNFCC, and there will be also another midterm review in New York next year. Also, Indonesia will be as a chairmanship for ASEAN. So I think this is one of the agenda that we can bring us together. What is actually sustainable resilience? So I would like to also encourage the sustainable resilience for the symposium to bring the spirit for the global communities. I thank you all and a very good morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditya Jati, for your keynote speech on behalf of Legend TNI Suharyanto. Ladies and gentlemen, the third keynote speaker is Rector of Syiah Kuala University, Indonesia. Before Professor Marwan delivers his speech, allow me to read his short CV. Professor Marwan graduated from 10 November Institute of Technology, Surabaya, Indonesia, earning a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. Then he obtained a scholarship and earned his PhD in chemical engineering at the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. To Professor Marwan, we welcome you to deliver your speech, and you only have 30 minutes to speak. Professor Marwan, the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you, the moderator. Let me share my slide. Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, especially Excellency 2022 UN4DRR Committee. It is an honor for me to be here at this important forum to share our thoughts and experience to develop capacity in disaster reduction. Along this year, we witnessed a number of achievements as well as challenges for long-term disaster reduction. Especially my title of presentation is this event would be Sustainable Environmental Management in Indonesia. Lesson learned from long-term tsunami recovery process in Aceh after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. In this presentation, I would like to connect the issue of environment in one integrated framework with disaster management. Many major disaster environment events in the world show that environmental and disaster management are two interrelated subjects where there need cutting-edge approach in most of the event. Just now, Dr. Aditya Jati from BNPB and also Professor Aris Marfai from Badan Informasi Geospatial describe how vulnerable Indonesia against many kind of disaster. To date, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, I think it is the larger event so far that caused huge loss in terms of human casualties and properties. This, in certain ways, cause problem to environment. On the other hand, it also drove many changes in the way we perceive environmental and disaster risk management, not only in Indonesia, but also global level. Yet we also identified some issues related to sustainable development in the framework of environmental and disaster reduction. Since 2004 event, there have been 18 years from the event. As the 2000 tsunami will enter its second decade commemoration in the next 2 years, we would like to share lessons learned for other mega disaster-prone areas. These slides show how the environmental aspect could influence event of disaster at pre, during, and post-disaster event. Before the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, many literature offered the perspective of environment and disaster more on response. Disaster risk reduction was not part of central discourses at that time, not to mention how difficult to translate idea of disaster risk reduction as part of investing for minimizing losses. At this point, we witnessed the important role of science and technology approaches in mitigating impact of disaster. Before 2004 even, there was no specific forum that gathered higher education institutions or university to discuss on disaster risk reduction. As far we could identify, it was not a popular one before 2004 tsunami. A disaster event was largely perceived and handled as emergency phase rather than a full cycle of pre and post-disaster. In fact, during 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, a number of universities in Aceh were severely damaged or affected by tsunami. At Universitas Syiah Kuala, we lost more than 200 staff, lecturers, and thousands of students were died. Other affected universities in Aceh, among them State Islamic University of Araniri, School of Engineering Skandatani, and School of Forestry Tengku Cik Pantai Kulu. All of them are situated in tsunami-affected area. In this figure, our universities lost 247 faculty and staff. Some of them were leaders of their faculty or department. Also, some of them were professors. We lost a lot. We also lost around 5,000 students due to the tsunami. Also, a large number of families from our staff were affected by tsunami. It was indeed a difficult time for our university that made us to close our university around a month. Around 250 houses owned by our staff also damaged, and around 30% building of university also damaged at that time. On the other hand, we realized that the impact of 2004 tsunami event should be managed and the lives should be recovered. Therefore, some higher education institutions decided to contribute actively during the recovery process of Aceh. Universitas Syiah Kuala especially then established UASK, Universitas Syiah Kuala for Aceh Reconstruction, what then we named as URR in short. Under URR, we coordinate with the government and reconstruction agency for recovery process of Aceh, and also provide some technical support and expert from our university. This slide shows sector we include under UR service. UR had 10 working groups that focus on different and interconnected items of work. There are two important institutions where UR work closely, namely National Development and Planning Agency of Bappenas, and also local government, Aceh government. Also, UR engaged with media. It had one advisory team plus one tsunami research center that later transformed as Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center or TDMRC. Along this long-term tsunami recovery process, we found that when we talk about sustainable disaster risk management, it should be coupled with development of science and technology. This will reflect the important role of higher education institutions to ensure that the long-term process has solid and logical ground through process itself. It is a complicated process. As the result of the RR awareness, we are happy to observe that number of universities that would focus on developing capacity in science and technology for disaster risk reduction is growing. Community outreach done by university have been also becoming popular. Also, on the other hand, number of disaster research publication has been growing fastly. One of the most important change was how disaster-related research topic become one of pivotal research topic of the Ministry of Research, Technology and Higher Education, or now become Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. This has been important evidence of change since 2015. We also established TDMRC, Tsunami Disaster Mitigation Research Center in 2006, and now it has been acknowledged as Center of Excellence of our university by the ministry. Other universities also practice the same thing, such as Universitas Gadjah Mada, IPB, and ITB. Started from 2017, USK has put one mandatory subject for undergraduate students. We call Environmental Science and Disaster Management. Number of interested universities in disaster risk reduction is now growing. Another important milestone was establishment of Higher Education Forum for Disaster Risk Reduction in 2008 by the Ministry of Education. Now, Indonesia National Disaster Management Agency, BNPB, adopt what we call a Pentahelix concept as inclusive framework to gain larger and stronger support from 5 sectoral stakeholders. One of the stakeholders is Commission or higher education institution in this context. BNPB and Badan Informasi Geospatial have been close partner for Universitas Syiah Kuala in enhancing our contribution disaster resilience in Aceh, national and international. The Pentahelix is adopted in order to ensure sustainable environmental and disaster risk management. This requires intensive and extensive collaboration from various parties. In this concept, academicians are expected as conceptual planner inventors by providing science and technology approach along the process. As the awareness conducting research-related research grow in Indonesia, number of research publications also increase. This graph shows how the significant increase of disaster-related publication index at Scopus database is very much related to important disaster events such as 2004 tsunami, 2006 Central Java earthquake, and recent tsunami event in 2018. Therefore, although disasters themselves brought many problems and caused losses, we gain some momentum to accelerate scientific achievement that can benefit future risk reduction. This is indeed one of key points for sustainable disaster reduction. Despite what we have achieved, it is a must for us to continue to engage with other stakeholders in Pentahelix concept. One of them is continuously being inside and within community at risk. This is what communicating science and enhancing resilience should be in disaster risk reduction. By doing so, we will know that the reality of the problem better and will help us to identify the solution to the problem. In a recent period, USK, Syiah Kuala, tried to do so by engaging with local government, NGOs, and communities. Among the examples are by providing seismic map for government to compose spatial planning, evaluating long-term tsunami disaster recovery process in Aceh, and to support local government compose regulation related to disaster reduction. For example, the local government have established what we call Canon or local regulation on disaster mitigation in 2010, and also local regulation on disaster education in 2022. This was done not only on geological disaster, but also on hydrometeorological disaster, such as by providing master plan for flood mitigation in our flood-prone area. In some post-disaster event, we also engage with the affected community, such as what we did during 2016 PD Jaya earthquake, and also in Palu, also tsunami. There's some photo how we engage with the local government in Aceh, providing services to help reduce risk in our region. We have some activity and prefer MOU with the local government, provincial and district government here in Aceh. There's also some photo of our activities during 2016 PD Jaya earthquake that killed more than 100 people and damaged 1,000 buildings in 3 districts in Aceh. We set up a response units support the local disaster management during the emergency period. During this event too, we sent our students and lecturers to conduct community service program in that area. Based on what we observed in Aceh, I think it is important to highlight some future direction on the role of higher education institution to ensure sustainable environmental and disaster risk management. Some of the projected direction should consider strengthening collaboration between university and local and national government and international partners for providing scientific-based disaster reduction, and then developing more advanced technology and advanced research in environment and disaster, working with community at risk to sustainably increase the community awareness to sustainable environmental and disaster management. And lastly, sharing and exchange idea and experience with global community and other university at overseas. As conclusion of my presentation, I would like to emphasize on 3 things as follow. Sustainable environmental and disaster risk management are long-term processes that require many strong collaboration from involving parties, where higher education institutions can play pivotal roles along the process. One of the important roles of higher education in the environmental and disaster risk management is to provide feasible, effective, and comprehensive method for environmental and disaster risk management based on science and technology approach. And lastly, collaboration among university, between university and local and national government, and outreach for the community at risk are 3 key important actions that should be strengthened forward. This ends my presentation, and thank you for your attention. Now I'd like to return the forum to the moderator of the session. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Marwan, for a wonderful keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, the last keynote speaker is Professor Jonathan Cheung-Wai, a lead partner of UN4DRR. Before Professor Jonathan delivers his speech in disaster risk reduction and management, allow me to read his short CV. Professor Jonathan is a professor in hyperspectral remote sensing and its applications using machine learning. Professor Jonathan holds a PhD from the University of Hong Kong. Then he worked as a research scientist at the Geography Department at the University of Maryland, College Park, the United States. Professor Jonathan is also a professor at the VUB University, Brussels, Belgium. That's all the short CV of Professor Jonathan. To Professor Jonathan, we welcome you to deliver your speech, and you only have 30 minutes to speak. The screen is yours.
Good day, everybody. My name is Jonathan Chan. I'm working with the Free University of Brussels, and I'm the coordinator of the project UN4DRR. First, I want to say sorry that at this point I'm with another project meeting in Laos, so I cannot be physically with you in this symposium. I would like to thank the IPB colleagues who are organizing this symposium. Since all of you are expert in the topic, today my presentation will skip the technical side of it, but rather just have a description of the project UN4DRR as a motivation. This is an impression of the campus VUB, translated into Free University of Brussels. Just a couple of words about my background. I'm an expert in remote sensing, specializing in hyperspectral remote sensing since 2 decades. Sometimes it's also called spectroscopy imaging. I'm interested in the application of it for land cover land use mapping using more advanced methods such as machine learning algorithm and also deep learning method. UN4DRR stands for University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management in Indian Ocean Rim. It is funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. There are 9 university partners with 4 universities from Europe and 5 universities from Asia. For the partnership, we have a Free University of Brussels as the coordinator from Belgium. We have Polytechnic University of Valencia from Spain. We have University of Nicosia from Cyprus, University of Zagreb from Croatia. And for our Asian partner, we have Maldives National University. We have Bogor University, Syiah University from Indonesia, University of Peradeniya, and University of Colombo from Sri Lanka. The aims and specific objectives of UN4DRR is to modernize the courses related to disaster reduction and management using GIS and remote sensing. In long term, we would like to educate future experts for the prevention and management of natural and human-made disasters. We want to encourage cooperation with national authorities, both public and private sectors, to offer joint DRRM initiatives and access to short courses. We would prepare and design the trainer program for curriculum development on the use of GIS and remote sensing for DRRM, following Bologna standards and comparability with ECTS. We would like to modernize the GIS and remote sensing laboratories using the latest hardware and software equipment for risk mapping, simulation, and assessment of disasters. We will develop new courses with new contents to improve research and practical skills of graduate and postgraduate students using state-of-the-art GIS and remote sensing method. We will develop short modules accessible for public and private sector. In terms of budget, there is a total of approximately €1 million divided into 5 categories: preparation, development, quality plan, dissemination and exploitation, and the last web package management. As you can see, more than 50% of the budget is devoted to development, which include equipment purchase, curriculum development, as well as technical training. Approximately, the split is 35% for European partner and 65% for Asian partner. The conceptual framework to build a new curriculum consists of 2 main components. The first is the top, related to the Bologna process, learning outcome, and ECTS, or European Credit Transferable System. For this element, it is related to pedagogy, education psychology, and mass open online classes. On the bottom, it is related to the Earth observation technologies for natural disaster management, and it contains first to introduce the data, the sensors, and the platform, and then the methodology to process and analyze this kind of data, In order to do that, of course, we have to build the infrastructure with a laboratory that is upgraded to the state-of-the-art equipment, including software and hardware. Then, by combining both, we will develop the new curriculum. The new curriculum have to be approved on the national level. After the accreditation, then we will launch the program and also validate and evaluate the program. And that is the last part, as the dissemination. For each of the web packages, 1 to 6, you can find that there are objectives, the description, as well as a leader and sub-leader to lead these web packages. On March 3rd to 5th, 2020, we had the kick-off meeting of UN4DRR hosted at Maldives National University. And as you can see, there are some pictures showing the participant at the meeting, as well as having some meals there. Unfortunately, soon after the kick-off meeting, then the pandemic hit, and then we encounter international lockdown. For the use of geoinformation for disaster management, there include certain steps. As this graph showed, once the natural disaster happened, there is a trickling process with a situation briefing. Then international community and all the space agency will use their satellite to acquire necessary data. Then it will trigger the pre-processing step with geometric correction and image enhancement. So all this information can be overlaid in the wild register form. The next step is to analyze this data using data fusion or information generation. The next step is to produce useful map. This map will be GIS ready and then used by the decision maker. After the map is quality approved, then it will be used and disseminated to all the international and national agency. So there is a trend to have, now we are having increased the use of very high resolution data in risk management. There are international charter, space, and major disaster. One of the example is the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. So this agency will provide the data necessary for disaster management at the very short notice. Geospatial information derived from satellite remote sensing are very important for management of natural disasters. Mainly, they can provide early warning and also mapping facilities. For early warning, that is the components which deliver alerts and risk assessment of disasters such as floods and forest fire. For the mapping component, it can address a wide range of situations from different kinds of disasters such as floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides, storms, fire, industrial accidents, volcanic eruption, and humanitarian crises. In the context of Southeast Asia or Indonesia, the most common form of natural hazard are volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, landslides, wildfires, drought, and tropical storms. And within the project, we have selected several themes where geoinformation or remote sensing data can be of use. Remote sensing data, nowadays in particular with drones, can be used to document the processes at different time scales In this case, in the lower right, it is photogrammetric application on the landslides, but this landslide is at a very slow speed. But with a drone data, we are able to record in a very long time series with a very accurate measurement. And at the same time, of course, this data can be used together with climatic data, such as those from the weather station to the left. Other than the passive sensor, very much in use is also active sensors such as radar. And this is an example which is now very well disseminated, the use of radar data to monitor surface deformation. And this technique is particularly useful for the cases of volcanic eruption or earthquake. To acquire the ability to process this data is a very important step. That's why the major effort in the project is to build the infrastructure or upgrade the existing laboratory. In this slide, you can see some equipment purchased using the budget of UN4DRR. That include in the top left, you can see a small scale weather station which can be installed with a continuous measurement. Then there is a budget for the drone, which is rather necessary nowadays. Then in the middle, you can see new computers, new laptop to enhance the capacity of the laboratory for educational purpose or research purposes. And then, of course, there are also other equipment that are related to DRR. Shortly after the beginning of the project, in early 2020, then the COVID situation has made the travel impossible. Then all of the activities have to move online. In the middle of 2020, we have organized two online workshop, best practice in the European Union in relation to disaster management. The first one was held by our Croatian colleague in the middle of June. And these are the section 1 to 7 related to the civil protection system in Croatia, how GIS and remote sensing technology are being used in the crisis management, etc., etc. The first best practice workshop is followed by the second best practice workshop hosted by the colleague from Cyprus. And the workshop involved the Ministry of Interior with the Civil Defense. They described the SFEDA project, which is related to a forest monitoring system for early fire detection. We also have the Ministry of Defense, which coordinate the Joint Rescue and Coordination Center. We also have the Intelligent Information Acquisition and Representation for marine and maritime applications from Cyprus colleagues. The main topic that is presented and discussed during this workshop are related to forest fire. One of the major components of this project is to develop state-of-the-art curriculum to incorporate geoinformation and DRR. For each of the university, they have to propose new DRR program or courses that incorporating with geoinformation technologies. So at the late 2020, we have started the training. We started with how to develop syllabi using the ECTS and learning outcomes. In the beginning of 2021, until the April, we have organized a series of training on e-learning because one of the objectives of this project is to generate online course. And we have a series with 7 topics. For example, the workshop on Moodle platform. That is one of the platforms you can develop online course. How to develop the descriptor of learning in the 21st century. We engineer the learning outcome with a suitable description of the course. Then how do we measure and assess the method for online courses? There are different approaches with a project and problem-based learning. What is the relationship of online learning and adult education? The technique to use video and different kind of tools and e-learning. After the online training on curriculum development, we have to wait until the end of 2021, the first physical meeting where the vaccination pass and program were being used, and Europe is started to open, and then we can receive visitors. So in December, we organized the first physical meeting in Cyprus as well as Croatia, and then we can continue the curriculum development component with the different topics. For example, to develop a course with critical and creative focus. How do we include the student with a diverse needs? What is open educational resources, etc., etc. Side by side, by curriculum development, we have to also to provide technical training, which is to make use of the latest development in geoinformation technology. In this slide, you can show the scheme of the technical training. In general, it is distributed into generic from the fundamentals of remote sensing, then in the 3 different topics in vegetation, land, and water. For vegetation, it's really related to the disaster of wildfire detection and mapping using Sentinel-2 and Google Earth Engine. At the same time, we are also teaching the use of LiDAR for visualization and extraction of digital elevation model. This is also the very important tool nowadays to map the forest structure. Then for land, we are introducing the Earth observation technology with GNSS or GPS for surface displacement monitoring, spatial modeling of geological hazard and risk, which is related to lava flow, which is related to volcanic activities. Then there are also remote sensing method for humanitarian demining. The point cloud generation using UAV images, which is very important for the application of the modern photogrammetric methodology. Then for water, we just finished the technical training on coastal monitoring, the sea level rise, shoreline changes, and water marine remote sensing is getting more and more important these days. And then to the right is some more detail on what actually we taught during the fundamental platforms and sensors in remote sensing. So you can see we have 4 training. In fact, for day 1, we have physical fundamentals of remote sensing. And then day 2, we introduce the platform and sensors, in particular optical sensors. Then in the second week, we introduce some more advanced data, hyperspectral sensors, and then the active sensor, such as radar and LiDAR. Finally, after 19 months, we have held the first physical meeting since March of 2020. And then last year in October, we have the first physical meeting in University of Nicosia, and then we continue with our curriculum development training. During that visit, we had the opportunity to visit one of the disaster location, which was a hill fire, which you can see to the bottom right. The whole rather large area was burned, and we had the opportunities to visit the home of the victim because they told us, share with us the experience of how this fire can come or change direction in such a very, very short period of time, and they were really feared for their lives. And then to the left, you can see the destruction, which is still visible after 1.5 years, I think. After the visit in Cyprus, we visited University of Zagreb in Zagreb, and just so happened that there was a very serious earthquake with the epicenter very close to the capital recently, and we were invited to have a visit to the field. And then you can see in the top right and the top middle pictures, you can see that this the disruption, buildings were collapsed. We were also visiting the new mayor of the town. They are still facing a lot of aftermath and how to rebuild the city. So after the success of 2 physical meetings, one in Cyprus and one in Croatia, we have decided the next physical meeting in Maldives and Sri Lanka. And in 9th to 11th of December last year, we had first physical training in the Maldives, hosted by the Maldives National University. And you can see that in this training, the topic is a UAV, and we have training on how to plan the mission, actually using the drone purchase by the university. And then we can use a photogrammetric methodology to generate a 3D modeling, as you can see to the right side. Then just before Christmas last year, 13th to 15th, we visited Sri Lanka. Here you have the impression of the training we conducted in the University of Colombo. After the Asian visit in last December, we have planned the next training in University, Polytechnic University of Valencia. And here are the impression of the technical training conducted there back in June. So the topic is in the coastal management. We have a training on how to delineate the shoreline so that to monitor the change before and after a storm. During the technical training in Valencia, we also had the opportunities to visit the site of lagoon management, as well as the field to the hilltops, so that we can see the shoreline that we were studying during the visit. As I said, the water remote sensing is becoming more and more important, and one aspect is to use more advanced sensors such as hyperspectral data to understand the ocean color. In this case, in this slide, is showing the quality of the water in the coastal area, so it can help for a fast response to disasters such as harmful algae bloom or oil spills. Oil spills can be detected using a hyperspectral sensor because of its very rich in spectral information. And in this slide shows some example, different kind of oil contamination can be detected using such a sensor. At the same time, remote sensing data have been increasingly studied to investigate the condition or the health of coral reef. During the visit in the Valencia, we have conducted training on how to use remote sensing data to monitor coral reef or coral reef classification in shallow water. And in this slide, you can see the two study areas we extracted for the exercise. Remote sensing data can be useful for understanding water body, but everything involved with water body is more challenging because the backscattering and also absorption in the water is this attenuation has to be categorized, and it is not so easy to do so. In this exercise, we are trying to use the methodology developed using Sentinel-2 data, also using the toolbox developed to find out the depth invariant indexes. The depth invariant indexes is a method that can be used for classification of coral reef in shallow water. And in this graph, you can also see some pre-processing step is also incorporated into this module, which you can find in the toolbox. Another technique we learned during the training in Valencia is how to map the shoreline using remote sensing data. So this is one example of more automatic way to delineate the shoreline to monitor its change before and after a serious storm. So that was the last technical training we conduct last month, and the current status of UN4DRR is that most of the technical training we have delivered. Most of the equipment purchase are also complete. In terms of the curriculum development, the training has been complete. New DRR program and courses are in the process of accreditation. Some courses have even already been launched and taught in online format. So now we are at the dissemination stage where we are building a UN4DRR platform for networking and to foster new collaboration and for disseminating UN4DRR results. Once this platform is created, we hope to share to all of you. Again, I would like to thank IPB colleagues for organizing this symposium, and this is actually a part of the web package 5 dissemination. We hope to share with you all our results and hope that we can have more communication and collaboration in the future. So with this last slide, I wish a very successful symposium in this for today. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Jonathan, for your speech. Now let's give big applause to all speakers for their inspiring keynote speech. You can give an applause emoji in this Zoom meeting. Before we continue to the parallel session, we will have a group photo session. We have to tell you that Professor Marfai and Dr. Aditya Jati cannot join this photo session due to another agenda. I would like to invite the keynote speakers, Professor Marfai and Professor Jonathan, also the distinguished participants, to kindly turn your video camera on. And to the committee, I need your help to take photos on my cue. We have 7 slides in this meeting. I will start from slide 1. 3, 2, 1. Slide 2. 3, 2, 1. Slide 3, 3, 2, 1. Slide 4, 3, 2, 1. Slide 5, 3, 2, 1. Slide 6, 3, 2, 1. And the last slide, slide 7, 3, 2, 1. Once again, thank you very much to all keynote speakers for your time delivering your keynote speech in this symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, considering that the parallel session will start earlier than scheduled, we will now moving to the parallel session. When I read the details of this parallel session, allow me to show you slides of the schedule of each breakout rooms. We will now be separating all the participants into 7 breakout rooms that will be moderated by Dr. Wiwin Ambarwulan in room 1 with sub-theme Disaster Risk Management and Adaptation, Dr. Zainal Abidin in room 2 with sub-theme Disaster Risk Management and Adaptation, Dr. Sri Mulatsi in room 3 with sub-theme Environmental Management and Policy, Dr. Shartinilia in room 4 with sub-theme Geospatial Technology. To the operator, yeah. Professor Hadi Susilo Arifin in room 5 with sub-theme Sustainable Natural Resources. Vivi Gusduyanti, PhD in room 6 with mixed sub-themes. And Dr. Ratna Saridewi in room 7 with mixed sub-themes. To the presenters and moderators, please choose the breakout room by yourself by clicking the breakout rooms button at the bottom of your Zoom meeting screen. Please note that each presenter only have 15 minutes of presentation and discussion. Each presenters must rename their Zoom meeting name to a new format breakout room number _ paper code _ your name. If you find any problems or issues, kindly contact the PIC of each room, and you can move to other breakout rooms when the presentation in your room has ended. And to all participants in breakout room, please come back to the main room after all presentations in every room ended, because we will have a session for invited speakers after the lunch break. We will start the parallel session in 5 minutes. To the committee and PIC, please help the presenters and moderators to join the breakout room. Thank you.